Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Social Talks, a free virtual conference for social media professionals and not only. We had some technical issues at the beginning, but we are okay now and ready for a new great talk. Things happen. So I'm Maria, marketing expert at Social Insider and the host of this live session called The 10 Most Important Skills Every Community Manager Needs. We just learned from Dr. Natalia Vichovsky in the previous session about LinkedIn, why LinkedIn is so powerful, LinkedIn company page benefits, how to optimize your page, content that works, how to grow your following and get more visibility. And now you are going to learn about community management and what skills you need to develop. There are great sessions today. I promise you that each session will have effective takeaways and strategies that will help you grow as a social media professional. So this is a conference you don't want to miss, believe me. Also very important, we have some prizes for the participants at the end of the conference. So make sure you stick with us until the end, be active, ask questions, or just say hi wherever you are. Joining me today is Dorien Morin Van Dam. She will tell us the 10 most important skills every community manager needs. So let me see if I can see Dorien. Dorien. Okay,
Hello.
so hi. Hi.
Hi.
Let me see. Please tell me if you are. Oh, great. Now I can see you.
Yeah. I'm here. It's good to be here. It was fun watching you from the outside. I was like, I wonder how this is going to work, but here I am.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good.
Great. So I have to tell people that since 2011, Dorien's been helping business owners worldwide to market their business on social media with great content ideas and strategies. She's also responsible for nurturing 2 Facebook groups, Social Media Pro Connect and Social Media Managers. So while social media managers and community managers might share certain similar duties, their goals and objectives are vastly different. Social media managers are perfectly positioned to become community managers if they desire to up-level their skill set. So in today's session, you will learn more about the duties of a community manager, who hires community managers, and 10 important skills every community manager needs. So Dorien, I can't wait to learn more about community manager. So the stage is yours.
All right. So can I go and share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I have a slide deck ready. So let me see if I can do this. There's the tab. Can you tell me you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, and I'm going to present. Does it look great?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So welcome, everybody. The 10 most important skills every community manager needs. Maria, do you have a time limit for me before I get started? Because I can rattle on forever.
Take your time.
All right. Okay. Well, I just didn't know if you had somebody waiting after, and I just want to be conscious of everybody's time. But there is so much to unwrap in community management. I've been a community manager for about 5 or 6 years. I started out with smaller communities, and now I'm a community manager, a paid community manager for a community that's closing in on 50,000 members. So that is absolutely exciting. So let's get started on some of the things I'm going to talk to you about today. So we're going to touch on what is a community manager exactly. I'm going to tell you really the main differences between social media management and community management, what skill sets needed, and what tasks are expected, because I know that's something that a lot of people wonder about, like, what should I be doing as a community manager? And then I've got kind of 10 titles that you can give yourself when you're community manager, and they're kind of fun. So I'm excited to get started. If you're here and you have questions at the end, Maria hopefully I'll be able to answer them, and if not, connect with me, and that would work out too. So let's get started. What is a community manager, right? This is not what a community manager is. For those of you who think that community managers are on their phone or on the computer all day, smiling, it's fun. But this is probably what my family thinks I do all day. But this is really more like it. I've got like 8 arms. I'm all over the place. I'm multitasking. As a community manager, there's a lot of different things that you will be doing, more so than I feel a social media manager. As a social media manager, I'm really task driven. So I might do design, or I might spend an hour copywriting, or I might spend an hour scheduling content. As a community manager, you always have to keep your ear to the ground, right? You want to know what's going on in your community. And while you can't be doing that 24/7, if you have a team, they should be doing that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but it's really multitasking. There's a lot of in and out of the community, a lot of listening. So I'm going to kind of get ahead of myself, but if you're more an octopus than this person on the phone, happy, smiling. So let's go to the differences between social media managers and community managers, because I bet you a lot of you are pretty familiar with social media management, right? But for a while when I first got started, I wasn't really sure what the difference was. So I'm just going to assume that you might not know either. So I'm going to explain to you. So as a social media manager, you're responsible for a brand's social media, whether that's an entrepreneur, a single person who is, a name, a well-known name, a brand, or if it's a corporation, a small brick and mortar, a doctor, a lawyer, a sports club, it doesn't matter. You're representing the brand on social media. And such as a social media manager, you post to Facebook and Pinterest and TikTok and all these different places as the brand. So you speak to the audience as if you are the brand. So you develop that brand voice. And we all know some famous brands that have incredible voices that we would recognize by the tweets they send, the humor they have, the funny things they post, the memes they use, right? So as a social media manager, you're behind the scenes. And this is what I liken it to. As a social media manager, you're kind of an actor, because as you grow, if you have an agency or you're a freelancer like I am, you move from account to account to account. So for an hour, you might be the social media manager for a sports team. So you talk about soccer, or you talk about tennis and the club and what's going on. And then an hour later, you might be the social media manager for a school, and you talk about upcoming parent-teacher conferences and what's going on there. And then the next hour, you might be the social media manager for a big corporation that sells light bulbs, right? So you represent the brand, you act in their voice, in their tone, and you act on their behalf online. As a community manager, you're usually you. You're your own person. So as a community manager, I'm Doreen, and I'm representative of a brand because I'm a paid community manager, but I could also be a community manager for say a sports team or a person, and I would be their assistant. I would be their community manager. But as a community manager, I'm known by my name. I'm not behind a brand's name. Sometimes I am, but most of the time I'm not. And instead of talking to an unknown audience or a sort of known audience, I talk within a community where I know everybody. So as a community manager, you are building relationships with those people, with those faces. You start to know when they're online. You start to know who's going to answer questions when you ask questions. You're going to know things about where they live or what they do for a living or what they like. And it really depends on what type of community you have. But I'm speaking about a community manager that's paid, that's a community manager for a brand, for a business. So you get to know the people that are in your community, and they get to know you. So that's really the main difference. You're still representing that brand, but you're representing them as you, as a community. People know that you are the community manager. As a social media manager, often I'm incognito. People don't know which brand I represent because I don't go on my profile and say, hey, I'm the social media manager for XYZ brand, right? But as a community manager, I'm known within that community as Doreen. So that's really one of the main big differences. So now we're going to talk about what skill set is needed to be a community manager, right? So I'm going to talk about 4 main skills. Now, I'm going to preface this by, when you're watching this, if you are already a social media manager, you're perfectly positioned to go into the community management role. It's a great avenue of, it's a great up-level way of maybe gaining new clients, and maybe you can add that to your current offering. Maybe you're working with a big enough brand who is looking to start a Facebook group or a Slack channel, and they're looking for somebody to manage that and to be the community manager. So that's an extra thing that you can sell to a current client, but you could also be looking for a position in-house or as a freelancer for a community management position, because there are big brands who are hiring community managers full-time to manage their online community. So as a community manager, one of the things that I do is I engage, right, with the community, with the people in there. So for that, one of the skills you need in order to do that is you need copywriting skills. Now, as a social media manager, you should have already kind of honed in on that aspect. You already should be writing some copy as a social media manager, copy that goes, say, to Pinterest and to Facebook and to Twitter. But as a community manager, you need to really understand the psyche of your audience. You need to dive super deep into what makes them tick. What are the emotional words? Why are they in there? Why are they in the group? And you need to be able to write copy really well. And that doesn't mean long copy. It means the right copy, so they're going to react. You really, in a group, and of course on social media too, when you're out facing to an audience, but in the group, you really want to have conversations, because a group, a community, is great for doing research. If you're a brand, right, and you have a community and you're looking to launch a new product, your group is a perfect place to do research on what features people want, how soon they want it, what they're willing to pay for a new product, right? So instead of you just giving information to them, it's also a great gathering place. So copywriting becomes very important to have that dialogue between you and the brand that's behind you and the audience. The other skill that I think is really important as a community manager is you have to like people. Now, you might laugh at this, right? But there are social media managers who are very introverted, that hide behind that brand, that don't need to show their face because they're hiding behind the brand name and images, which is perfectly fine as a social media manager. But as a community manager, that doesn't really fly. So you have to have people skills. You have to be able to take the stage, so to speak, and you have to be able to speak to people. The other part to that is you have to really understand the psyche of people and read between the lines. And I can give you a story example of that. Years ago in one of my Facebook groups, and I usually know people pretty well that post. I had a man in my group who was posting all of a sudden 5 questions a day, 8 questions a day, 10 questions a day. And it was pretty unusual. And they were all legitimate questions, but he kind of stood out. And we don't necessarily have a rule in that community that you can't ask 10 questions, but it seemed a little bit overkill. So I went to Messenger and I messaged him and I said, "What's going on? Why are you posting that many questions? They're all legitimate, so I'm going to allow them, but I'm feeling something's off." And he responded with that. He was in the hospital. He had been in an accident. He had a broken leg. He couldn't move, couldn't work. And he figured he would take that time that he was laid up with a broken leg to learn. So he was in our community to learn, to kind of up level his skills while he was late, when he couldn't work. And it totally made sense. But if I had not thought about something was off and I had not been in tuned with the people in my community, I might have either muted him or eventually had a conversation and be mad at him. But instead, I went to him and I got a very satisfactory answer. We ended up chatting for a while. I ended up realizing when he was out of the hospital, and it was a great little relationship. But you have to have some people skills to be a community manager, because again, you're in that spotlight. You're the liaison, let me use that word, between the brand and their audience, and you're a visible liaison more than if you're the social media manager. So copywriting skills, people skills. The next thing you need is creativity, which is on the bottom left of your screen. All those different colors. You have to be able to do some design work. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to answer questions fast. You have to be kind of agile, right? You have to be able to go with the flow, what's going on. And here I can use a real life example. Again, I asked somebody about a word that I had used, and people started saying that word has a negative connotation. And then I could have just let that go and said thank you, but I tagged a couple of people, I brought some people in, and I just kind of went with the flow, and it ended up being an incredible conversation about this one word. And so you have to kind of be creative, think on your feet, and be available, right? So that's the other thing. So as a social media manager, I block time blocks to do certain tasks. As a community manager, while you can still do that, it's also really important that you are flexible, right? That you are able to keep a finger on the pulse, so to speak, of what's going on in your community. The worst thing that would happen is if there was a spammer in there, or if somebody was having instigating an attack, personal attack on one of your members in your group, and you're not there because now you've blocked 5 hours of time and you're not there, and you haven't assigned another moderator to see what's going on, or you haven't set up that keyword alert correctly so you get a notification to your phone. So it's really important to be creative and to go with the flow, but also just really be available. And then that last piece is that you have to be able to have ideas and to implement and test things, right? Communities are living, breathing things, right? There are people in there that have real feelings, that have changing circumstances. So it's really important that you're in tuned to what's going on. So copywriting skills, people skills, design and creativity and ideas. I think those are all very important. So then we're going to talk about the tasks that are expected. So the first thing I want to say is, even though I talked about posting in the group, a lot of it is about listening. So speak less, listen more. You have to really put that ear to the ground to know what people are saying, be able to dive into that group and really interpret what they're really saying, right? So that's one of the tasks. And then we're going to go to the bingo. So I thought this would be a fun little thing for you to see how ready you are, right? This is where you take your phone out, guys, and take a picture of this bingo card. If you have maybe, because I love Post-it notes, if this is something that you are like me, get a Post-it note. And then on your phone, once you've taken a picture, get these little things and make yourself a bingo. Tell me if you have a bingo, right? So I might put one on create content, right? So I put one on there. And then maybe I did a live this week in my group. And then I can certainly answer a membership question. So I'm going to try to go for the bingo on the second line. I bet you that if you looked at all of these tasks, you could probably get close to making a bingo just by being a social media manager. And then there's some tasks in there that are more related to community management. But I'm not going to read all of them, but here are some things that I love about being community management. Have meaningful conversations. That means go beyond, hey, how are you today? Right? Is What's going on in your life? Do you have an office pet? And then showing my office pets, right? Having conversations with people so they get to know you, because as a community manager, you're building that know, like, and trust factor up. And again, you're that liaison between the brand and their audience. And so you want to be able to be seen as that person that they can talk to. So meaningful conversations is great. Create a list of frequently asked questions. This is an awesome task. It's probably a long-term task, but if you're a community manager, you will see the same questions asked over and over and over and over, especially when new members come into your group, right? As somebody comes in the group, the first thing they're going to do is like, what are the rules? Where can I find them? Or I'm in this group, I have a question. I joined this group because I have a question about a product or a service or about the brand. And so when you start building that frequently asked questions list as a community manager, you can have a variety of ways that you can offer that. You can create a group file, right, with answers, with a downloadable ebook. You can create a series of videos of frequently asked questions with the answers, and you can pin those to the top of your group. But that's definitely one of the tasks that you should be doing. Removing inactive members. I do that probably in the big group, probably once every 2 weeks. In a smaller group, maybe that's a monthly task. Setting up those guides. You can put your videos with frequently asked questions, set them up in a guide and say, welcome everybody, welcome to the group, tag them when they're new. Go to guide number 1 to have answers to your most frequently asked questions. And that way you're not repeating yourself as a community manager. So this is the bingo card. If you haven't done it yet, grab your phone, take a picture of the bingo card. I would love to know if you can make a bingo as a social media manager. But if you start getting into community management, if these tasks are things that you get excited about, community managers might be just, well, something that you could get into. So now I'm going to give you the 10 sort of names that I give myself. So the community managers are like glue. They're the glue that keeps a community together, right? Without a community manager, your community would quickly turn to become a forum, a bedrock for spammers, and they would not have a guide, right? You're the glue that holds it together. You're the guide that tells people where to go, where to look for information, and you hold kind of that role between audience and brand, and you're the glue that sticks them together. It's a very important role. Don't let yourself think that this is an easy task. There's going to be people in there that might be grumbling. There might be people that leave. There are going to be competitors maybe in your group that come in and you're like, oh, why did I let them in, right? But your role is to be that glue that keeps everybody together and to make it into a breathing, living community of wonderful information, educational content, and entertainment. You're also the referee. You are going to be the peacekeeper for that online audience, right? Without a community manager, squabbles, disputes, and disagreements would spiral out of control. People, even though in our rules, in most of the groups that I'm the admin for, we have very specific rules, no personal attacks, no name calling, and yet it happens in the heat of the moment when two people disagree. Instead of having a dialogue as adults, they start attacking each other instead of discussing their viewpoint. And so you need to be in there as a referee. You need to be able to put a note at the bottom, at the comment, and say, we're closing comments. This is done. Or you need to be able to make a decision and say, I'm going to delete these comments. Or make a decision, I'm going to mute one of these members. Or if it's really bad, remove and block a member. So you're the referee that makes those calls. And it's really important that somebody is there to make those calls. But there's nothing worse than having negativity in a group that just sits there for everybody to see. People don't necessarily fault you for somebody being in the group that's negative. What they fault you for is if you don't take care of it and don't react to it. So the next thing and this is the part that I love, you're the cheerleader, right? No matter what happens, no matter what happens in the world or what happens in the group or what happens to members, you are there to cheer people on. You're the cheerleader of the brand and you're the cheerleader of the audience, right? You want to have conversations about the products the brand offers, the services they offers, the people that they help, testimonials. You are there to cheer on the brand. You are a user of the products, you are a provider of the services, and you are the cheerleader. So I love that part. I would never want to be a community manager for a brand that I didn't love. One of the brands that I love, I can share with you. I'm a runner, and I've been running in the same brand shoes for 12, 13 years. It's Brooks. I'm not an affiliate or an ambassador for them at all, but wouldn't that be fun for me, who's been running in those shoes for 12, 13 years, to be their community manager? Because I can now speak from experience. So when you get a gig as a community manager, it's really important that you embrace that brand, you love that brand, you use the products, you go through their content or use the services, because you want to know it inside and out. You're their cheerleader. You're also the educator, of course, right? You have all the facts. People are going to ask you all sorts of questions about a product or service that the brand offers, and you are the gatekeeper of the facts. So you're an educator, whether you go live or whether you do a live Q&A in your group, which is really fun in Facebook groups, whether you interview experts, whether you show how a product is used. Without a community manager, the questions would go unanswered and confusion about products and services would follow. We get a lot of questions about pricing. Answer them. Educate your audience about why it's a good value, why it's a good service, and bring in people, real users of your product and services, into your community as well. Invite them in, invite them as part of the conversation, because that will really help you further that relationship with the people in there. You're also part entertainer, right? And this is where I bring out my one prop of the day. I have this pair of clown glasses. Hello. I'm going to share that with you. I hope you can see it. I think I am still live and visible. I do fun things in my group, right? You want to, when people, especially say on a Wednesday, when people are, just trying to get through the day to get to the other side of Wednesday, to get closer to the weekend, you want to entertain them. You want to ask leading questions. You want to ask them, what books are you reading? Again, people love to talk about their pets, their kids, their vacations, their homes, their community. Ask questions about their past, their college. What was your favorite subject in college? What is your favorite memory about high school? Get people talking and entertain them. Like I said, props are great. I have lots of orange glasses, which is part of my branding. So I'll ask their story about people's glasses. If the brand has props that you can use, if they have T-shirts, put on their branded T-shirt. If you have a mug, drink coffee. Talk about your likes and dislikes and entertain the people in the community. Again, it forms a bond. You're that liaison. It forms a bond. They get to know you. And if they get to know you, they get to know, like, and trust the brand, and they get to have that relationship. So as a community manager, you're the entertainer. Who would be there to chat in the middle of the night or when they can't sleep, or to answer those burning questions that they have? And here is a fun fact. Pampers years ago discovered that a lot of their audience was online at about 1, 2, 3 a.m. Well, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So they hired a community manager to be an overnight community manager, because what do new moms do in the middle of the night? They change diapers, and they're pretty insecure about their new parenting skills. And they might be either giving a bottle to the baby or nursing a baby in the night. And now with the age of phones, they might be on their phones and they might be desperate to look for answers. So that brand, Pampers, hired a community manager, an overnight community manager who was there to chat with people in their group, but also on their page. And it was wildly successful because that's when the new moms were scared, right? Think about if your baby's crying, and won't stop crying, and you don't want to wake your husband or your spouse, and you don't want to call your mom in the middle of the night to ask a question. What did you do when I cried as a baby? But there's somebody there on social media, somebody who can help answer questions. So that's super smart, right? So be that entertainer, be available. You're also the voice of reason. What does that mean, right? As the voice of reason, negativity and passive aggression, right? It's always there. It's this or that. If you say the sky is blue, some people in your community will argue that it was orange last night, and they're right. It's not always blue. There's always going to be. So you have to know when to step in and say, thanks for the discussion. This was great. I'm going to close comments, right? You have to be the voice of reason, especially when people start really being aggressive towards each other, or about really steadfast about something that they're passionate about, but they might be completely wrong about. So you're basically the ultimate person that says this is a go or this is not a go. And you have to be able to do that and be strong in that. You're also the judge. What does that mean? So community manager, you're a judge, right? Member shared content. Oh my gosh, I can write a book about that. Maybe I should write a book about that. Member shared content in groups. I just started a group 2 weeks ago, and somebody comes in and shares a link to their group in my new group. I've got to be the judge on that. Okay, here's my thinking. Since I'm a new group and I invited people in my new group and my rules aren't that big, I allowed it in. And I said, good for you. You have a group. What is it about? And I started the conversation. If a new member in a group with 50,000 people in it came in and wanted to promote their own group, I would say, nope, that's a case of you're trying to poach my members into your group. That's a big no-no. And by the time I have 50,000 members, I probably would have written that rule, don't promote your own group, in the rules of the community. So you definitely have to be judge and jury on member shared content. And as I said, it will change as your community changes. Your community will go through phases. There's initial startup phase, then there's a growth phase. There is a phase of everybody invites all their friends and it's really active, and then maybe there's a big event coming up and everybody's frantic in there. You might have a big campaign, another growth campaign, and lots of new people come in. And so you might go back to the initial phase of frequently asked questions and welcoming everybody. So just know that your community, again, is a living and breathing community of people, and that it goes through these phases, and that member shared content as part of that community will change as your group and the dynamics change, right? You're also the kick-ass ninja. I love this one. You have to fight the internet trolls. So as a community manager, your task, your role is to keep and to recognize the trolls before they come even in your group. You have to ask, you can ask 3 questions in a Facebook community before people enter your community to see if they're the right fit. Use those 3 questions. Don't be afraid to change them if they don't work. And don't be afraid to say no to people, and don't allow them in the group if they refuse to answer the questions. And let me tell you, I've had people come to me in Messenger after me refusing them for a 3rd time. And they said, I have now applied 3 times. Why can I not get in this group? And I would say, you have a new account. It's less than 6 months old. Or you have 2 friends. I think it must be a dummy account. Or you haven't uploaded an image, a picture of yourself. So I want real people in the group. So I've set all those rules as a community manager, and then I either let them in or not. And if it looks fishy, usually it is fishy. Now, I know for a fact that Facebook is working on a solution where you can, when you deny somebody in the group, you can give them feedback on it and say, you were denied to enter this group based on you not adhering to this or this rule. So for example, your account is less than 2 weeks old, come back in a couple of weeks and we'll admit you. Or you did not upload a picture, and we want to make sure that you're a real person. So once you've uploaded a picture, you can reapply. Or you are in 1,000 groups already. We don't think you belong in our group, which could be another kind of way to see if people belong in your group or not. I usually, and again, it's intuitive, I usually scan a profile and say, hey, they're new, but they belong to 10 groups. They're all about, say, social media management. This person really wants to learn about social media management. I'll let them in the group. You always have an option to kick out trolls, to block them, to ban them, to mute them. There's all sorts of things you can do. If you are the admin of a Facebook group, you really do have the power. And so don't be afraid if you're on the fence to let them in. You can always kick them out, but you have to be there to catch those things when they do, when they comment or spam or do crazy things. You're also the catalyst of the group, right? You're the catalyst for community growth, for brand growth, and it's really exciting, right? You are kind of the brand ambassador. You invite people in. It's kind of like you're the host. You're the hostess with the mostest. That's really what community management is. And so you want to invite people into your home, which is your group. You kind of set them the ground rules. You give them something. If you were to invite somebody into my house, I would ask you if you wanted coffee or tea, maybe some apple pie. I'm from the Netherlands where we just roll like that. And then, so if you're inviting people into your group as a community manager, you want to give them a resource. You want to say, hey, here are the rules. But here's a resource. Here is a link to the frequently asked questions. I'm available. You can tag me if you have a question. And so you kind of are that catalyst to that community growth. You also tell people to invite their friends, tag a person and bring them into the fold if your product or services is something they need. So when you have all those different things that, you know, the ninja and this, the catalyst and the cheerleader and the judge, you can see why initially I put this picture up of that octopus, right, with 8 arms. There's a lot of different facets to community management, and it's really exciting. I think this is number 10, the sounding board. You have to be the sounding board for the community. So like that story that I told about the man who was in the hospital, you have to kind of read between the lines, but you also are going to be the sounding board for your moderator team, right? Because I can tell you right now, if you're the admin of a group by yourself, you can only grow so far because you cannot be physically online 24/7, and you don't really want to leave a group unattended. So you want to build a moderator team, and here is a tip, maybe with people in different time zones. So if you're looking to grow a community, you might want to find somebody in a time zone of North America, in Europe, in Asia, and in Australia. And so if you have 4 people that are part of the moderator team that are on different time zones, everybody can kind of keep an eye on it. It doesn't mean that everybody has to post. It doesn't mean that everybody has to engage everybody, but it would mean that you have an eye on the content at all time. So you want to be that sounding board for the community, but also for the moderators. You want to have people be able to come to you and say, hey, my question was denied. Why was it? Or, hey, something's going on in my life. And I have this question. I know it's kind of outside the group rules, but can I ask it? So you want to be able to be that person that people come to for advice. So I want to leave you with this. Community management is a fantastic job. I think that I didn't realize what I was getting into when I got into it. And I absolutely have loved and loved it. It is not for everybody. It is not for the most introverted people. You have to be visible. You have to be online. You have to be on video, or you should be at least. and you are not really or shouldn't be hiding behind a brand. You would be under your name, but it's super rewarding. The relationships that I have formed by being a community manager and the opportunities for business that I've gotten by being the expert and being the community manager in a group have been fantastic. So if this speaks to you, absolutely go look around. I would say go to LinkedIn, put in community management and job, and go search and look what's available. Like I said, lots of brands hire community managers. Sometimes they hire them for the weekend. Sometimes they hire them for evenings or certain shifts. But there's full-time community management jobs available as well. And you could also, like I said before, sell this as a way to grow a community for a brand that you're already working with. I would love it if you connected with me. I'm More in Media. That's the name of my business. You'll recognize me everywhere by my orange glasses. Again, my name is Dorien Morin Van Dam. I'm going to stop sharing now and see if Maria is here. Hi, Maria.
Yes, I'm here, Doreen. I loved your presentation. It was so complete. And I love your bingo game.
Oh, isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Yeah. I mean, I just think that it was kind of in the middle, and it's a good way to see if you're ready for this, because there's so many different tasks that are involved with community management versus social media management. They're not completely different, but yeah, it's a lot of stuff. So good. I'm glad you did. Were there any questions for me?
Yes, we have 2 questions.
Okay.
One is, what's your advice for introverts to become better community managers?
Okay, so my advice, if you're an introvert and you are already a community manager and you have a little bit of trouble, one of the things that I love doing is GIFs, right? Instead of putting myself on there and a video of me or asking a question, I use GIFs all the time in the group. And you can find funny ones like, I have a question, or what book are you reading? Or especially when you ask questions and when you engage with people, that way it's not you and your face, but you can kind of hide behind a GIF. So that's one thing. And the other thing to remember is that a community is a closed space, right? So if you give just a little bit of yourself, you get a lot back. So build those relationships one by one. One of the things in one of my communities is we had like a marketing Monday where everybody can kind of talk about their business. And I use this as an example. And as a community manager, I went in there and said, hey, I'm your community manager. I would love to connect with you, right? There was one person who went to LinkedIn and connected with me and said, hey, I saw that you said to connect with you, came to me, connected with me. He's now a speaker for me. He's an expert in my group, but he took that time. So build relationships one at a time. You don't have to be it for everybody, even if you're introverted. And then the last advice that I would have is tell people. You'd be surprised at how many people identify as being introvert. And so when you have that in common with somebody, and even if you struggle a little bit, then you would get a lot of support for that. And you have something that you can talk about.
Great. And the next one is, can you share with us the best practices about how to make people ask questions?
Questions in the group. Yeah. Sure. So one of the best practices I would say is limit people to one question at a time. It's in a large group that I admin is people will come in the group, they're brand new, and they go, and this happened the other day, I want to know about the Facebook pixel. I want to know everything you know about it. I need to know how to install it. I need to know how to do XYZ. And I denied that question, and I gave the feedback and said, can you tell me what you've already researched? And ask one question at a time. Say, I tried to upload a pixel and it didn't work. Or my boss wants me to install a Facebook pixel and I don't know what to do with it. So tell people to ask one question at a time. So that's the first one. The second one would be, if it's a frequently asked question, I would say, hey, that's a great question. It's answered here in the group. If you have a Google sheet with frequently asked questions in there, that would be a great way to answer their question with a post that's already been posted in the group with a link. Another thing that I do is I am, besides being the community manager, I'm also the content manager for one of my brands. And so every question, or almost every question that comes to the group, becomes a piece of content. So now it's a blog post. So then I can take that blog post, and when the next person comes in and asks that same question or a similar question, I answer it with a blog post. So now we've come full circle. So that's kind of how you just remember, if one person has a question and actually asks it, there's probably 5 or 10 people that have that same question, but we're afraid to. So when you think about it that way, think of a way that you can answer the question and also reuse and repurpose that content.
Perfect. And the last one is what would be the best place to start to build an industry-specific influencer community?
What would be the best place to start?
To build an industry-specific influencer community.
I would say absolutely start a Facebook group. Slack could be it as well, but I would say a Facebook group. A lot of influencers are on Facebook. You could get Instagram influencers that you want to work with over to Facebook. Facebook is just a really great place to have conversations with people, right? So I love Facebook groups. Start with a close group, invite the people that you want in there, and give them access to somebody important, right? So if you're on a marketing team and you want to build an influencer marketing community for your brand, invite maybe not the CEO, but the head of marketing in there. Invite somebody that has some sort of say into that community as well. So you give them access to somebody on your team that they normally wouldn't get access to lure them in, right? To start that community. And you can give them feedback on, this is the content we're working on. And I think that if you share your process of what you're looking for with your community, give them ownership. That's really the word I was looking for. Give your community, to build that Instagram or that influencer community, give them ownership of content to create, of where it should be posted. Ask them questions, ask for their input, and say, hey, we're building this campaign. This is our strategy, or this was our initial strategy. This is the goal that we have. How can you as an influencer help us attain that goal? What are your ideas? And when you get people to buy in, that will really grow your community and really help you. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Great. So Dorien, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. Everyone, make sure connect with Dorien on Facebook and LinkedIn. And please stick with us until the end of the day, because Social Talks continues, and our next guest is James Tucker. James will teach you how to plan your content on social media. Also, if you liked Dorien's session, please share it on social media with your connections. Tell them that you've been here. Mention Dorien, mention me, and Social Insider. We will really appreciate it.
Thank
Dorien,
you.
Thank
Bye,
you again
everybody.
for your time. Bye.
Bye.